Welcome everybody to this week's episode of MTN Outdoors and the start of general firearms season for deer and elk here in Montana. I am once again your humble host and guide, Andy Curtis. And this weekend, I'm sure, has been circled on a lot of your calendars for a lot of reasons. It's a great chance to get out into the backcountry. It's an opportunity to finally fill that freezer. And if you're lucky enough, it's a chance to really spend some quality time with family and friends out here in the woods. But if you're anything like me, it's another shot at finally filling a tag after what could be described as a very unsuccessful archery season. So because I couldn't get close enough to an animal with my bow, in today's episode we'll take a look at some very close animal encounters people have had here in Montana, one actually taking place in a very urban setting. And if you just so happen to like your animal encounters out here in the wilderness a little more, we'll also take a trip down to Yellowstone National Park as they finally repair and reopen one of their entrances following those historic June floods. But before we get to any of that to celebrate this unofficial holiday here in Montana, let's go over a few rules, regulations, tips, tricks, a whole list of things that you need to know before you ever leave the truck this hunting season.
A lot of people just assume they know the regulations. This year is the first year with some pretty big changes to some of our areas in the state. The hunting district boundaries have changed, and some of the regulations within hunting districts have changed. So it's really important for people to brush up on the regulations before they head out.
Now, your preparation shouldn't end with that. We have a vast amount of public land to hunt here in Montana, but where that public land ends and private land begins can sometimes be pretty confusing.
It's your responsibility as a hunter to know whether you're on public or private land and whether you have access to the land you're hunting on. It's in Montana, it's in statute. You have to have permission to hunt on private land. So we have some good tools on our website. We have a hunt planner that has the private public land ownerships in it.
But if you are hunting private land this season, remember that communication with that landowner is key, and a little respect goes a very long way.
We'll tell hunters, I talk to landowners and ask them like, hey, thanks for letting me hunt. Do you want me to keep the gates as I find them? Do you want me to close all the gates? Do you mind if I shoot something off the road, can I drive to go retrieve it? If it gets cold and we're going to be out all day, can I build a fire? Or, all those sorts of questions you need to be asked because you can't just assume that you know what the landowner's wishes are for their land. And hunting private land is a privilege.
And being respectful extends far beyond just hunting on private land. As we're about to see in this next story, a lack of respect shown by some people out there on this public land in Gallatin County has led to restrictions placed on all of us. MTN's Kristen Merkel explains, sometimes we just can't have nice things.
Due to the continuous misuse of state trust land associated with recreational shooting, the DNRC has announced 2 firearm restrictions on lands in Gallatin County.
Our shooting restrictions that we've imposed on a couple of pieces of property have to do with public safety and have to do with the ability of our current lessee to be able to utilize the property. This one is public safety that we're talking about because of the houses.
Yeah. Bozeman's DNRC unit manager Eric Ennebo says there is a 15-acre plot off Axtell Road that is restricted due to housing around the area.
We have a parcel on the Axtell Road, and we're actually closing a very small portion of that to shooting permanently.
The state land in Logan is restricted temporarily due to the misuse of the land, and so the leasee feels safe while handling their livestock.
Particularly on the Logan piece, we're seeing so much shooting there on a daily basis, a concentrating shooting there, that our lessee, who pays a grazing bill every year, can't get out there to fix fence and can't get out there to graze the livestock safely.
The Gallatin County Sheriff's Office has received calls about people shooting on the land and leaving their trash, and Ennebo encourages people to keep the land clean.
Some people leave debris behind, targets behind, spent shells, and all that kind of stuff. And so we're really asking the public that Pick up after yourself on state lands.
The temporary firearm restriction in Logan will be in place from November 12th through the 25th, and backcountry hunters and anglers have helped clean the land, but the restriction is just an extra push to limit trash and allow for livestock to graze safely. In Logan, Kristen Merkel, MTN News.
I know I sound like a broken record on this, but it's a reminder that we all have to keep in mind, be bear aware as you go out hunting this season, especially now as those big old Bruins are trying to pack on as much weight as possible before winter. See, I only bring it up because it's a reminder that these bird hunters and their dogs got firsthand recently outside of Shodo. MTN's Brianna Juneau has our details.
The city of Shodo and Teton County are on high alert after a hunter was attacked by a grizzly bear on Tuesday afternoon. The 51-year-old hunter and his wife encountered the bear around 1 p.m. but sustained non-life-threatening injuries.
So early afternoon, just a little after lunch, we received a 911 call of a possible bear attack just east of Shodo.
Teton County deputies, FWP, bear management, and game wardens returned to the site where they located and euthanized the bear due to its injuries obtained by the hunter.
And because this bear was injured by the hunter, and then we had to ultimately make that decision to euthanize the bear, which is never anything we want to do.
With hibernation coming up fast, bears are on the hunt for food, and Fish and Wildlife Bear Management Technician Daniel McHugh urges the public to remain bear aware.
So first and foremost, know that bears right now, it's a tough year for bears. Natural food sources are really low this year, and bears are really scrounging to try to find food. So be aware of that. Know that if you see a bear, expect it to be curious and interested in finding food. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's trying to hunt you down and get you for food, but be aware and take the necessary precautions.
Obviously, from our law enforcement, we'd want people to be better equipped, know their area, know the situation, have better bear awareness.
Authorities suspect the attack was caused by a surprise encounter. So what can stand in the way of being attacked?
Bear spray is to me always the first thing to go after over a firearm.
A lot of situations can be avoided by bear spray. The data indicates that that's true as well. I personally use bear spray. I trust it with my life.
In Teton County, Brianna Juneau, MTN News.
All right, one last reminder for you migratory bird hunters out there. If you're using the MyFWP app to keep all your licenses organized and on your phone this season, you still need to have the signed and physical copy of that federal duck stamp on you while you're out in the blind this year. And I'm only bringing that up because it's something I forgot about. So now you have no excuse. If you have any more questions about bird hunting regulations or want to learn more about that MyFWP app, head on over to the FWP website. And welcome back, everybody. Yellowstone National Park recently hit another major milestone, reopening one of their entrances following that historic and devastating flooding back in June. And from the sound of things, it happened just in time. MTN's Jackie Coffin gives us a tour.
Images of the historic floods ripping through Yellowstone Park this June stunned the nation and left people and park officials alike questioning the future of America's first national park. But 4 months to the day later, Park Superintendent Cam Shawley says the prognosis is good.
I think if you asked me June 13th, you asked me at that point, would we be standing here today, 4 months later, having the conversation that we're having and seeing the repairs done that we're seeing, I would have said that was probably not feasible.
Shawley shows what visitors can expect, which stand in stark contrast to the way the roads looked just months ago.
You know, the big thing is the three major blown out sections are repaired and paved going into the winter, which is our primary goal.
I'm here at the Trout Lake washout, which is one of the areas of most damage done by the floods here in Yellowstone National Park, not far from the northeast entrance. But by Saturday, this area will be open for vehicle traffic all the way to Mammoth. So far, it has cost the Park Service $50 million to repair roads damaged by flooding, and there is still a section left to complete. That's near the north entrance of the park from Gardner to Mammoth. For now, visitors can once again travel through the majority of Yellowstone Park and reconnect to the beloved Lamar Valley.
People care about Yellowstone.
In Yellowstone, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
It's not unusual to see a wild animal in Yellowstone, and it's not unusual to see a wild animal really anywhere here in Montana. But it is a little unusual to see a very big wild animal in our biggest city. MTN's David J. has some close encounter footage of a moose that's been on the loose for quite a while in Billings.
One of the latest sightings of the moose is right around here at 15th Street West and Avenue D. The irrigation ditch is about 4 or 5 blocks in that direction. That's where the moose has been camped out. A man was sitting right here on the bench, and the moose came right through here between the post and the man. Security video at the Alliance Resource Center shows the moose at around 4 o'clock Monday afternoon.
We had no idea we'd had a visitor on Monday. We actually had 2. One was a nice gentleman sitting on our bench enjoying that beautiful day that we had Monday. The other was probably a young moose.
Workers came back on Tuesday after the holiday and spotted some blood before seeing the video.
Our building manager was going to check and clean it up and led him to be curious, and he checked our security footage out.
Sue Bailey, director of the center, says it appears the moose came down 15th Street West and made a right turn and headed down Avenue D.
Comes up between these trees. He kind of does a roundabout here, a loop. He was going, maybe this been going this way. He looped around this way, and then he went right through that space with the bench and the light post. He fit right through there and continued down the sidewalk, we think, to about halfway through the parking lot. Headed out that way, he went right past our bus and down the sidewalk.
And they do not recognize the man in the video, but say it was shocking to see how close those 2 got.
I think he might have even gotten brushed by the moose.
Bailey has looked at the surveillance footage and believes the moose has just a minor cut or scrape.
He was trotting pretty well. He didn't look like he had a limp or anything like that, so we think he was probably all right. He probably scratched himself on a fence or a bush or something in his travels. It was kind of exciting to see it. It'll probably be at the talk of the dining room tomorrow, but it's always fun to live in Montana. You never know what you're going to see.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
I know it's getting colder out and there's actually snow in parts of the state, but it's still fire season here in Montana. It's just more on purpose this time of the year. MTN's Sean Wells is about to show us why, especially right now, it takes fire to hopefully stop fire.
Anything we can do to help mitigate the fuel load that's out there that's been accumulating for years.
In just over 2 weeks, Flathead National Forest officials have burned close to 2,000 acres of forest land.
We just want to make sure that we don't lose these prescribed burns, so we're burning in the shoulder seasons when we have that opportunity.
Flathead National Forest Fire Management Officer Rick Connell says prescribed burns are planned years in advance, burning in areas of concern if a wildfire were to break out.
Take little blocks out so that we can hopefully give us a better chance of holding a large fire, and then also reducing the amount of smoke from wildfire.
Connell says 850 acres has been approved for burning near Whitefish Mountain Resort over a multi-year time frame to protect the municipal watershed. He says a large wildfire in that location could be devastating because the watershed is the primary source of drinking water for whitefish.
So we're burning primarily south aspects, so that the encroachment that has happened due to lack of fire, we can take that out so that if we get a fire, it'll be less intense.
Connell says that prescribed burn has now been postponed this season because weather conditions did not line up as previously forecasted.
So we wanted rain to come in, and last week they were talking ½ inch or more. And then by Friday, they were dropping down to 1/10 to 1/4, and we just didn't want to take that risk.
Connell says prescribed burns help forests increase resilience to insect and disease and improve wildlife species habitat.
Burning off these west and south aspects so that in the spring they can get up there and get into good forage early is also a good thing. And if you're up in the real high elevation with bighorn sheep, which we don't have, but the park or other partners do, you're also looking at their transitory range from winter to summer habitat.
Connell says prescribed burns on Flathead National Forest land will continue for the next 2 to 3 weeks, weather permitting. In Kalispell, Sean Wells, MTN News.
Stonefly Studio started out as a hobby when Daniel Maisel made his son a custom fly box. 15 years later, and business is booming as the Maisels continue to provide customers with handcrafted items that preserve memories. From the outside, Stonefly Studio isn't much to look at. But step inside and you'll see these Montana-made creations coming to life. A business that also started with a woodworking project 15 years ago, when Daniel Maisel's son lost a fly box.
I have a garage that I can do a lot of, projects like a lot of dads will do. And I made him a new fly box. And so that's how it all began.
That fly box has now become this. A successful business that specializes not only in customized fly boxes, but also Montana-made cribbage boards and maps.
Just so special to see where they were and where they've come, not only in the business, but in their own lives as well.
Daniel's wife Carla says it's been a treat to watch her family grow along with the studio. The couple's daughter Janine began helping with the business when she was 12 years old. She still helps today.
It just brings back a lot of memories on just the family dynamic that this place has always held.
Everything here is custom made. Customers can come in and ask for one of these 700 maps to be put on just about everything imaginable, along with pictures, poems, or other notes. The Maisels say most items are given as gifts for special occasions.
I just have a pet peeve that we never miss an important date. And so we really do work hard at prioritizing who needs it and when they need it.
A family that takes pride in what they do, and a Montana-made creation that's truly unique.
That's what keeps me going every day, and it's a fun job, and it's very rewarding to know that you are creating a memory for someone.
We know that we actually do make a difference in people's lives, and that's what it's all about.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Now, if you were to ask anybody who knows me, they'll say I always talk about how squirrels are our future. Those cuddly little creatures with the bushy tails who steal birdseed and chew through wires could hold the potential to future human space travel. MTN's Tanner Saul has a story that finally backs me up on that thought.
Hopes of sending people light years away into deep space may seem like a work of science fiction. In real life, we are held back because traveling so far takes a huge chunk of time. But biologists may be turning this science fiction thinking into fact. And that's all with the help of a tiny mammal you probably see every day: squirrels. A solution that NASA has stated to help long-term space travel is to put astronauts into a state of hibernation. For people, this long period of not eating and inactivity would reduce the mass and function of muscles. But this doesn't happen in hibernating animals. So why squirrels and not study bears instead? They are the epitome of hibernation after all. Well, biologists have and still are, but they have found that larger animals that hibernate like bears are slowing down using energy. They aren't saving it during hibernation, but actually losing it, with some grizzly bears having a negative energy savings of 124%. While smaller hibernating mammals like squirrels tend to save far more energy. To be able to get through a long winter with no food, hibernating squirrels can slow down their metabolism by as much as 99% and yet still manage to maintain their muscles. This is a key takeaway as people's muscles would atrophy in such a long sleep. Squirrels can do this because microbes in their gut generate crucial proteins and amino acids, allowing the squirrels to burn almost no energy when they hibernate, with no loss of muscle mass. To better understand how this unusual hibernation process works, a recent study published in Science injected the blood of ground squirrels with tracking agents to allow them to see their bodies' changes over the winter. These biologists confirmed a 30-year-old theory called urea nitrogen salvage, which takes nitrogen salvaged from urine and used to make muscle tissues to replace any loss from not eating food. Essentially meaning they're recycling their pee. If what's happening with the microbes in the guts of squirrels could be used in people, we may be able to put astronauts into a hibernation state without serious muscle loss. This would also mean they wouldn't need to take as much food, water, and oxygen with them, which would ultimately help save enormous amounts of weight and fuel. Having squirrels help us out with space travel is incredible, but we could be seeing impacts of these findings right here on Earth. Over 805 million people around the globe experience muscle depletion as a result of malnourishment, meaning this could help with areas experiencing famines or low amounts of food. Sarcopenia is an age-related loss in muscle mass leading to a 30 to 50% decline in skeletal muscle mass in people from 40 to 80 years of age. By harnessing the same process squirrels use to hibernate, millions of lives could be helped. Researchers do note that these applications are possible, but still quite a ways away from being feasible. A lot of additional work is needed to convert this natural mechanism safely and effectively to people. The good news is, in the early 90s, scientists found evidence that people are capable of recycling small amounts of nitrogen from urine from the same process as squirrels. This means the necessary process is in place. It just needs to be enhanced. I'm Tanner Saul for Newsy.
Well, that should just about do it for us here this week at MTN Outdoors. Thank you once again for inviting me into your homes and making me a part of your week. It really means a lot. And please send those outdoor story ideas and questions my way to andy.curtis@ktvh.com, and I'll do my best to try and answer those and get them up in future episodes. Also, I know you've got some successful hunting photos already out there, so shoot them my way as well to that same email address, and you could see your picture at the end of a future episode, very much like these. It's this week's edition of our MTN Outdoors Brag Board. All right, so we're showcasing a lot more of our favorites here this week, and here are a few more pictures from John. Thank you so much for sending these in, man. And another fan favorite is back. Here are some more wild photos from our buddy Dwayne, out enjoying all the types of fishing that one can squeeze in here in the Treasure State. Thanks a lot for those pictures, Mr. Nelson. Please send more my way. Well, there you have it. Thanks again, guys, for sending in those pictures. Another great week of MTN Outdoor Brag Board photos. And if you've ever wanted to see how good you look on television, this is your best chance. Send me those successful hunting pictures, fishing pictures, camping pictures, hiking pictures, doing anything fun and exciting outside here in Montana to andy.curtis@ktvh.com, and I'll throw them up at the end of a future episode. And until next week, everybody, have a great season. Good luck out there. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the trail.